Hey everybody, this is Katie, and today I'm going to be doing a book review and discussion on Nowhere But Here by Katie McGarry. This is a ARC copy of the book, so this is not the official cover of the book, which when I looked up what the cover is, I kind of like this one a little bit better. It's kind of very dictating to what the book is about, where it's just kind of, it misleads you in that fact. And I can say that I was misled in a lot of different aspects of this book. This book takes place around two characters, Emily and Oz, and they are two complete opposites from each other. Emily lives in Florida, and she lives a charmed life with her mother and stepfather, who has officially and legally adopted her. And Oz is trying to get into a biker club. Oz is in Kentucky. So with it being such a different location, one would think that these two characters would never meet. However, this is when we find out that Emily's life isn't exactly as she thinks that it is. And when her mother comes out and says that something happened to Emily's biological grandmother, they make the trip from Florida to Kentucky, where they go to the funeral of her grandmother. But even that isn't exactly what it seems. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. I was not expecting this book to be as good and as enthralling as it really was. I read the blurb on the back. It seemed very teen rom-com, where it talked about Emily, who is just so happy with her charmed life, and Oz, who is, his life isn't as charmed, but gosh darn it, he's going to live up to the family legacy and join this biker club, and he is tough, and no one wants these two to be together, and blah 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 blah, teen rom-com stuff. So when I read this book, and the reason why I read it first in my month of March was because, honestly, because it was the longest book that I had pulled out. And for whatever reason, I decided that I was going to read this month's books by length, because none of them were correlating in series with each other. So I just figured go it from longest to shortest and see where I turn out. And I am so glad I read this book. This book is the first book in a trilogy. The next book in this series comes out March 29th, and I am very excited to get my hands on a copy of that book and see where these characters go from here. So that is the ending of my non-spoilerly section of this review, and yeah, so I'm going to go into more spoiler parts, and if you haven't read it, then I recommend that you go get this book and read it, and if you have read it, stick around, or if you just want to be spoiled and find out what it was about this book that I absolutely loved, then go ahead, stick around. I have to say that the chemistry between Oz and Emily was prevalent from the moment that they met. It was sparks flying off the page, and it wasn't like angsty sparks, like there are some series that make you just kind of hurt with how much angst is in a relationship. It wasn't like that with this couple. It was very much a chemistry. They just worked so well together. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. When Emily is quite the trickster when it comes to finding things out when she wants to find them out. If she thinks that there is someone in her family keeping something from her, she will do whatever it takes to find out what is being hidden and kept from her. With that fact that Emily so diligently will fight for what she wants, it kind of got me very frustrated while I was reading it too, because the first time that Emily and Oz kiss, I was rooting so hard for them to kiss when it was going on. I was holding it up and I'm like, kiss! I'm screaming at the book, my dog is staring at it. And when they kiss, I cheered, and then Emily went and used it as blackmail against Oz because her father is in charge, Emily's biological father is in charge of the biker gang that Oz is trying to get into, and he thinks that hitting on the owner's father, or the guy in charge's father, is not the right way to get into the club, and he is absolutely right in that. So now he's like, oh crap, I kissed her, she's using it against me, this sucks. And from that point on, it was just there was tension, but it wasn't, like, angsty tension. It was, I can't believe you kissed me and then used it as blackmail tension. I think that kind of was also slightly frustrating with Emily and her character was she was so dead set on finding things out, and she would do whatever it took to find things out until it meant that she had to do real work, which was a little self-centered in a way. She wanted everyone to tell her what was going on, but she wasn't willing to take the hints that everyone was saying to her, and there was a reason why no one would flat out tell her. She would sit there and pout and be like, no one's telling me what I want to know. And the grandmother, who was dead but not dead, she wasn't dead, she's just dying of cancer, and she hosted her own wake to try to kind of ease the tension. So the grandmother wanted Emily to know what was going on, and even though she was so close to dying of cancer, she was still honoring the promise that she made to her son about why they weren't in communication up until the last 5 years, and she was dropping hints on what was going on, and Emily was just like, you're not telling me what I want to know, and the grandmother is sitting there going, yeah, I am. You just need to listen to me, because I totally am telling you. And so that was Emily's character flaw, and I'm not expecting the characters in any book to be perfect. I like the fact that Emily had this as a character flaw, because it is something that a lot of people do have as a character flaw. One thing that really, it just touched my heart when we found out about some of the meaning for her biological father's tattoos. Emily's original middle name before it was changed to Elizabeth was Starr, so her name was Emily Starr. And on her biological father's shoulder, arm, this area, there are stars tattooed onto his arm. And for every star that's not filled in is a year that he went without seeing his daughter. And I get emotional when I see that, because out of 17 stars, only 5 of them were filled in. And so she saw more and more that her father does truly care for her, and it just may not be her love language. And she learns that, and she accepts that, and she starts speaking to her father on a more truthful level. Later, when Olivia, her grandmother, seizes, her father comes in and he's trying to comfort her because she's the one that was with her when the seizing took place. Emily decides that she wants to say something, but she doesn't know, like, she knows what she wants to say, but she doesn't feel like it's the right time. So in the middle of saying what she was originally going to say, she just kind of says, I hate pork. I hate pork. In the middle of, grandma's having a seizure, I hate pork. And there was just this whole conversation of, thank you for telling me, because you chose to tell me this and I didn't have to ask you. And I didn't have to pry for an answer. You chose to tell me something about yourself. And I think that is when Emily really saw how closed off she was being to this entire side of her family. Later is when she finds out that her father was in jail for attempted murder when she was an infant and for a good portion of her childhood. And the attempted murder that was against her uncle, and Emily at this point still doesn't know what any of this significance is. So she starts flipping out, and she only finds out because her cousin just accidentally dropped the bomb. And now everyone's all pissed off that now she knows, and there was a lot of drama there. But with that bomb drop, Emily becomes desperate to find out more answers. And like with the kiss that she had with Oz at the beginning of the book, and throughout this entire time, their relationship has changed from I hate you, I'm going to use you as blackmail, to actually being in a romantic relationship. How desperate Emily has become, she has taken to, if my grandparents on my father's side or if my father or my grandparents on my father's side is not going to tell me these answers, and my mother is not going to tell me these answers, and my stepfather is not going to tell me these answers, then I need to find someone outside of these three groups and who will tell me these answers. And she goes to her maternal grandparents, who, when we found out that they were the leaders of the biker gang, the ones that's been doing illegal crap and killing people and hunting people, were the leaders of that gang, it just put this whole twist and spin. And then her father gets shot in the face, and it was pretty angsty. And he survived, and at least he survived, because I was ready to cut someone if he didn't survive. It was not the way that she should have found any of that out. But, she's glad that she did find it out. Just with not being shot and having her father shot in the face.